Okay, great. Let's begin the meeting, and let's have a pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I printed the agenda and didn't bring it. Do you have a copy, maybe? Sorry about that.
Nope. Take mine.
Okay, just get it going.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, first we'll start with the minutes of the January 21st meeting. Has anybody had a chance to look at it, and do they have any comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of January 21st meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Seconded?
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Or it passes. Great. Thank you very much. So the big news, the headline news in the chairman's report is the successful dredging of the harbor, which we all know. We'll hear a lot more about that in a little while. But you know, I think it's interesting to hear the after-action reviews that were going on, and Jeff did a really great job at pulling all the threads together and presenting to a number of different audiences to understand what it is that the whole project meant, why it was in place, and how long, and what the history of it coming to that point. And he presented at the Pequot Yacht Club to the Lieutenant Colonel of the New England District and Lieutenant Colonel of the Wilmington or Mid-Atlantic District, or just Wilmington,
North Carolina.
And they visited the dredge site, and they had a presentation of the harbor history, which was fascinating. And you know, I hope that perhaps maybe you can make some of that available to the commissioners and the public, perhaps on the website. I think it would be very useful. And a couple weeks ago, I came to Town Hall to present the budget for 2025, which I did, and there was no extraordinary questions, no questions that had any surprise, so I believe that I'll go forward with present it to the RTM at some point in the near future. The other thing that I think Betty forwarded to all of us, the Harbor Management Commission narrative, that's the document which sort of gives a high-level description of what it is that we do and why we do it. And it's well conceived, and I think, frankly, I don't have any changes to it myself. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. If you have any changes, let me know. I don't think it's a matter of requires a vote. I told the office that we would be, I said, Michelle, that we would, come back with any changes. Otherwise, it'll carry. Any discussion or thoughts around this item? No. And we want to make sure we have the committee structure in place as per the town rules for the beginning of the year. And the mooring committee is Jeff Warren as chair. Brian, John, and Belinda are all members of that committee, as well as harbor management plan update. Kim, are you on the call tonight? Kim Taylor's chairing it with Doug, Don, and I don't know who C. Beacock is.
Cheryl was a former member of the commission. They had an interest in continuing, being involved in the continuation of the work. She had been on the committee that worked on updating the plan in the first place.
Okay.
So that was and also Mary Von Conta had been on.
Right.
There's two former members that provide their input and interest.
Very important document for us to keep updated. And then I just, as the last item on my report, I have just a reminder of the FOIA rule where whenever more than two commission members are meeting to discuss commission business, it's deemed a meeting. And it must be, you must have an agenda prepared and sent out with time in advance, and you have to keep minutes. So I'm just reminding all of us as to what that protocol is, and we must adhere to it. That's the end of my report. We'll be going into more detail on, I've been involved a fair amount with the Connecticut Harbor Management Act, which Jeff will speak under old business. But Brian, why don't we hear from you on the Harbor Master's report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dredging, we've gotten a number of calls and emails, everything positive, and people are very thankful for the work that you did as the commission and Jeff, our consultant, getting the dredging done. And I'll let Jeff talk more about that. We did have a coffee with the harbor master. We had about 50 people come out for coffee to watch the dredging occur on a cold, blustery Saturday morning. Folks all enjoyed that. 2 weeks ago, Robert Stilson, he's one of the founders of Community Sailing. He passed away, and they dedicated a bench in his name at Yee Yacht Yard. So I went to the memorial service there for that. In connection with renewals, we're going to have one mooring available so far this year. Someone is not renewing. We have paperwork still lacking on the waiting list. 18 of the 87 people have not submitted their $10 yet. They have 2 more weeks. I expect they'll be coming in. Of the moorings, we've heard from everyone except one individual so far. Of the people that we've heard from, everyone has been renewed except 14. We're waiting on little things, current registration, problem with the insurance numbers. I think we'll all be corrected. We've all been communicating with them. The one other individual, I'm not sure what he's doing. I have to reach out to him to see if I have another vacancy. Received a phone call, or an email rather, regarding Tide Mill Dam from several people beginning at the middle of December. There's a breach in part of it to the east of the building on the road, and it's causing the river level to come down at the Mill River. They asked my assistance. I told them I really don't have jurisdiction over that, nor does the commission in most cases, because you go to the head wall of that dam. I suggested they talk to the Conservation Department about that because the effect it has on the river. You don't have jurisdiction up the river, nor do I have jurisdiction up the Mill River that far. Jeff, I think, is going to talk more about that as well. He's been in communication with them. Also, I had some photos sent to me yesterday, and I'll kind of circulate them around if you want. Those are just 3 copies of the same thing. And 4 more copies. This is of the yacht yard. This is something I talked about last year, the low water level. Just to keep this on your radar at some point. I know dredging was not in the works there, but this just shows that at times of low tide, and it wasn't even that much lower than low tide. This was just a moon tide. It wasn't any storm effect on the tide. Virtually all these dock spaces at the yacht yard on the dinghy dock are inaccessible, and those are sitting on the water. I think you can get 1 boat in the middle and 2 on the left or the easterly side that would float, but everything in the center and on the right, and you can see the launching ramp as well, is inaccessible. So just something to keep on your radar as the future. If not dredging there, and this is only going to get worse, is another location for dinghies or some. We have to think about what we're going to do.
In the process of repairing the lower wharf pier, that won't have an opportunity to deal with that at all. Well, no.
Yeah. And it's something, Jeff, you've looked at this once already, I know, dredging in this area at Yee Yacht Yard. The commission looked at that sometime in the past, correct?
Well, we had a grant.
Right.
And, now we're looking to return the money. The permit ran out. Dredging because it requires capital material, and actually Bill Hurley was here. He helped us with that quite a bit. If the project went out to bid, we had a contractor who bid on it, but we couldn't do the work because there was no source of capital. And then the permit ran out, and we decided we focused the efforts on the lower wharf pier on the wall. So if we go back to that, we go through the same process, but yeah, it's a difficult process because the material is not suitable for open water disposal. In fact, we also went through the process of retesting it to see if we can because that's the material that doesn't require a cap. And then we find out that the material is higher level of pollutants than when we first tested it years ago. How that's possible, we don't know.
Is it alternative?
No, sir.
Is an alternative to, since we now know how long these excavators, the reach of them, is to do it from shore and just cart it away, whether it's to Waterbury where they burn it or that upstate New York facility, and not even try to put it back in the sound?
We talked about that, and we were talking about that. That was at the same time that the town was going through some issues with the fill file at the DPW, and thought that might not be accepted, an acceptable means by the neighbors to see a pile of material being dewatered, because it would have to be dewatered before it could be trucks in place. So then that brings up the whole issue. Well,
Yeah.
we talked about it.
I think it's something I want to make sure it's on your radar, because I know it's not going to get better. It's just probably going to get worse.
And the impact right now is this one side of the dock.
Repeatedly, I leave mine in the middle, for instance, on the right. If you're looking at it, I leave my right finger, the one closest when it comes down the ramp, all the way out, the last space in the middle, on the finger to the west. And more than once, I haven't been able to get the boat out without wrestling it. Once, not at all. And coming in, I'll have to frequently turn the motor off. If it's low tide, and kind of use a paddle and shift my weight on the whaler just to try to get it in. The only spots you have enough water is dead at the end, where the fireboat is, dead at the other side, and then a couple of them on the channel side, far left. But everything in the middle and everything close to shore is dry. On this side of the dock, where people put their dinghies on the shore side. So,
Are the docks Harbor Management Commission, or is it Parks and Rec? Where does that end and start?
they issue the permits for the dock. It's
But
within,
the land side facility is all Parks and Rec.
correct. But they're in the harbor, which is your jurisdiction.
Is a ramp needed for first responders?
The ramp,
Yeah.
now, because they leave assuming the boat's in the water. Right now, this time of year, it isn't. And that's something I talked to the fire department about, with their inflatable, leaving it at the yacht club perhaps, or somewhere else, or leaving it at the metal docks where we have bubblers for the winter, so it is accessible, but for whatever reason, they pulled it out. They would have to use the ramp to launch if there was an emergency now. They would have to put it in South Benson and come all the way around to the Westport. At low tide, they couldn't get the whaler. They're a little inflatable in here if they needed it. It's just not launchable. And you can see from the other picture, it's just, mud at the end. They just not enough water. It goes all the way out to those rocks. And personally,
But your thought is that by virtue of the fact that if the emergency vehicles couldn't get in and out, then that would be an emergency dredge opportunity.
and they couldn't at low
Yeah, I mean,
tide.
beyond the
they can't
docks,
launch.
right? I do think they rely on the ramp.
Yeah.
Maybe even be for more than that one inflatable.
Fairfield may.
Some significant emergency.
And the police may, in the off-season, tow the boat, that are out of the water, tow it from where they store it and bring it there with a jet skis or something.
That was part of our project initially, the need for emergency access. When we had the original permit for doing that, it included redoing boat launching, which Public Works did. But they were not able to put in the last plank or piece, because that required dredging. So that's still an issue, because I think there's you still have a purchase order, Bill, for that last piece, the boat ramp?
Well, we had money left over at that time, for I believe it was, two panels.
Two more panels.
But that was several years ago. We never were charged for them. And so therefore, whether they're still available or not, we may have to reorder them if we ever went that far.
And that was part of, when Betty was going through the budget, I think that was an expense that was.
So we still have the 2 open POs and
There's still 2 open purchase orders, but there's no way we can do it without going through the whole process of getting a new permit and sampling and testing and then getting money to do it. But that should be, in the update of the harbor management plan, that should be included as a priority project. Not a guess, should be.
Because we don't have another access point for them now. That's my point. Unless we come up with something different elsewhere, we don't have a lot of choices.
What does the town do about dredging over at South Benson? Do you know?
We just recently, are you talking about the channel or the actual marina itself?
Both, I guess, yeah.
The channel was dredged due to Superstorm Sandy, and then I think it was even dredged a little bit after that. I want to say, maybe it was the same one, but it was like 2015 by the time, again, we get
Yeah.
hurt.
Was that by the Corps, or was that,
No, that was by the town.
oh, the town's equipment?
Yeah. And
Did
it
you
was by the
contract it?
town,
Yeah, you contracted it out, yeah.
And then the marina, I'm gonna say 2008 or something like that. It was, yeah, 2000, it was around 2000, somewhere in
Still didn't
that,
have much
still
this
20
year.
something.
Because there's no title, that's just,
No, it's still titled.
I know there's title, but there's no water coming the other way, I guess, right?
Well, for the channel, yeah, that's where
The
it's.
channel is the creek, right?
Yeah,
Not the big.
the marina isn't as bad, but, there was a guy I know, Chris Drake was involved, and, somebody else, I'm gonna say that was done about 20 years ago. The channel was maybe now almost 10 years ago.
So for all intents and purposes, we've identified the problem, we need to figure out what a solution is, because the solution needs to be found.
Yeah.
And as Jeff points out, we need to put that into the harbor management plan as a project, and I think that's the first step in the update. But, you know, I'm not sure where to go from here, because we don't have money, we don't have permits, we don't have time, and the season's going to begin, and it's going to continue.
Right, but it's not gonna get any better, so I think it's just something you folks have to have on your radar, like I said again.
Yeah.
Just plain devil's advocate, but these docks are not our purview, right? The permitted spaces are not our purview.
No. We have nothing to do with it.
I mean, it sounds like a big project to get done. Is there a possibility that Parks and Rec would take it on?
The Harbor Commission took it on because of the availability of the SHIP grant from the Small Harbor Improvement Project grant from the Port Authority. And that's set up for essentially harbor management commissions to apply for, and to make the argument that what is being applied for is consistent with the harbor management plan. So we put it upon ourselves to get the permitting, and to do the permitting, and also to do the grant application. You know, and we also have to...
So you say we should be doing that again for this now? To start that whole process over again?
Probably have communication with Parks and Rec.
They may start with Parks, conversation with Parks and Rec.
I have other things to speak to Parks and Rec about. Why don't I just take that on between now and the next meeting? I'll see what they have to say, and we'll tee it up for something to discuss further at the next meeting.
But also, the yacht yard and boat yard is managed according to certain policies in the harbor management plan. So the ramp has to be open to non-residents. There's a limited number that permits that can be purchased each day. It has to be a public landing, and when people, maybe from out of town, get a mooring permit, they should be able to get a space for a dinghy there as well.
Our harbor management plan provides that if you're given a mooring in the harbor, you're given an access point to get there, whether you're a resident or not. And that's why you have a number of these boats that exactly what they do at the dinghy dock is get out there.
All right, so why don't I take that on and see where that leads, and then we'll take it up. As right now, we don't really have a clear path. We have a very unclear path. Is that the end of your report?
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to the old business, and we'll start with the Lower Wharf 2 sign plan.
The signs are still in the possession of Department of Public Works. I met with Jim Carney last week and showed him the drawings that we had submitted to the Historic District Commission, marked where the signs are to go, and I walked him down, showed him those signs. He said they should be in within 2 weeks, but, you know, weather permitting. So I just drove down there today. They're not in yet, but they should be in within 2 weeks. And Betty, just to clarify, we did submit the invoice for payment, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So everything's good? they'll be up within 2 weeks.
Terrific. Lower Wharf rebuild. Mr. Stedman.
We're still waiting for we have to address comments on the permit application that DEEP has asked us to address. We're still, we don't have the permit yet to do all of the work that we essentially adding the north pier. But that's still in the works, and then Bill and I are going to work together. We haven't, I said this last month, but we need the coastal site plan review, an administrative review, not a public hearing, from TP&Z for the wall, the work on the wall itself. And we just need to, the person at TP&Z said, to propose the same sort of protections as we proposed for the Perry Green, for use of the Perry Green wall. You know, not to, what was it, Bill? The flotation curtains or something to protect the harbor during the work, or whatever means.
Yeah, usually turbidity.
Whatever means you employed at the Perry Green, you just have to propose those for the work at the wall at the Lower Wharf for TP&Z.
They're basically similar projects, it's just one is stone while the other was timber, you know.
So the protections, we just have to describe those to TP&Z, and then we'll have the necessary approval. Bill and I will work on that, and he's working with the Race Engineering to address the questions that DEEP has or had, I guess has, right, Bill, on the permit application.
Okay. Which brings us right to the sand management and comments regarding the dredge.
Well, I'm sorry that Kim's not here because she really contributed an awful lot to having this project be completed. And it's quite interesting that when you talk with representatives of the Corps of Engineers, they all remarked about how much they enjoyed working with the people at the town of Fairfield, and mentioned Kim as compared to some other towns where they're working and they would get criticisms or ask why they can't work quicker. But we're writing up a report on all that went into this project. And when we say that we started 35 years ago, people wonder what have you been doing in that time period. We don't have the final post-dredge survey, so it may not be perfect, which is just to be expected given the time and so forth.
Is Race doing that?
No, the Corps of Engineers is doing
okay.
that. But we do know that they excavated more than 20,000 cubic yards of sand from the channel and from the side slope. So that's a substantial amount of material. And I think our task now is we haven't done anything to keep it from filling in again. And we'll need to work with the country club and really that's part of the harbor management update too. Figure out a way to try to slow down the movement of sand. But one good thing...
I'll be meeting with the country club next Saturday, the Saturday after to just host the idea that, they could perhaps participate in that sand management. Yeah,
because the jetty is not maintained. It hasn't been for a long time. But interestingly, there's much to talk about, of course, and it'll be too much to go through here, but all the people, the harbor master, you, and the members of the commission who worked on this project, it was disappointing, I think, that no one from DEEP was able to come down and view the work in progress because of all the permitting requirements. We invited them, but it just didn't work out with their schedules. So we have a pretty complete photographic record of pretty much every day of operation. Interestingly, as you mentioned, Chris, the military leaders, the deputy leaders that weren't not the colonels from each district, came to visit the site, and Lieutenant Colonel from the New England district mentioned that this is this year, 2025, is the 250th anniversary of the Corps of Engineers. Recognizing that they were formed at the Battle of Bunker Hill. I don't quite understand all of that, which was 1775. So there are programs and information that's being developed this year to celebrate, if that's the right word, the anniversary of the Corps. And when we talked about the history of Southport Harbor and the Army's involvement in that, going back at least to 1826, when the first survey was done by the Department of the Army, the Lieutenant Colonel thought that this is a very interesting story, and to tell the story of Southport Harbor intertwined with the U.S. Army, maintaining it through these years, and then most recently with the project just now. So we're going to write a paper about that.
They were very appreciative of your presentation and very informative. And they asked for you to contribute to their compilation of the history of the Corps, the 250 years, and it'll be included in all of that.
Very, very interesting. But there's a lot, to learn, and we'll summarize this in a report. And then, Betty, I didn't get that to you, but we have the presentation that we talked about with the interested people at the Yacht Club to put on the town
Excellent.
website. And I made a couple of changes to that.
Was that recorded?
No.
No, but I have the presentation that we showed. It's a PowerPoint.
Okay.
The deck is pretty good, though.
Okay.
But even though there's not a lot, we can't go on take the next couple of hours describing this, but we thought, and Jim and Chris and I thought, that it would be most appropriate to recognize people in the town whose contributions were vital to getting the project done. The Yacht Club will be another time, Jeff, because your role is certainly just as important as anybody. But the engineering department of the town really helped us throughout, and we'll write this up. But right at the time when the Corps first did a survey of the channel and placed stakes on the sandbar, marking a line where the 100-foot channel line is, marking the line of the setback or the top of slope that was expected to result from the dredging project and the work area. And then they said, well, could the town, put this on their own survey, so in case the stakes get all taken down and it's disturbed, we can re-establish it. And of course, the survey department went right out and did that. Then there was also the work to identify the vegetation, which was a big issue with the project. And thinking back 20 years, when did you survey the vegetation 20 years ago?
I wasn't here quite that long.
No, but
18 years.
but the town did it then too. And interestingly, there were only like 3 or 4 clumps of it then. Now the whole top of the sandbar was covered with the vegetation, but with different types of vegetation. So the commission retained a botanist to assess that. And that was significant for this work too, because if the Corps of Engineers was to have done that themselves, they would have had to go through a purchasing process, and it would have taken a long time, and we never would have been able to do the work this winter. So the botanist identified the plants of interest, and then the survey department went out and surveyed the areas again. And it was interesting, they had a young intern, a college student that was helping at the time. And I joked that I was taking pictures of him because if there were any problems, we were going to blame him for the mistakes. But they did that survey. They then did the survey after we moved the plants. So without the Bill as the engineering manager, and Scott as the chief surveyor, and John as surveyor, we wouldn't have been able to do this project this winter. I'm positive of that. And so we thought it would be for the public record to acknowledge the town's contributions for this work.
We should definitely acknowledge and show our appreciation in the minutes. But Jeff has also prepared these tokens of appreciation for you guys, which I think are for each one of you. So I'll hand these out to you. But John,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I get,
No, yours is a picture.
Yeah, that's John. John's with John. I think that was John. We'll make sure you get it.
Good, thank you very much.
and we might say also,
Judy just taking the photos.
No, you're taking the photos, please. Wonderful.
Scott was able to do some drone work.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you, when Army,
What about?
Thank you.
the Army Corps, had said, well, we'll see if we can get this, we figured it was a line, because like Jeff said, we've heard this before. And the fact that every group that was involved got together and somehow pulled it off, I was giving it like a 10% chance of happening this year, and then next year there'd be another reason why to blow it off, that everybody should, consider, and be thankful that we worked together. Thank you.
But Scott also, as the drone pilot for the town, was able to document the pre-dredge conditions, and the photo you see that we provided to them is during the work, and then also the post-dredge conditions. So we have a really good record, I think, and then there's also well, I'm going on too much again, but just controlling the construction area, just a little bit of ordering signs of construction zone, no access, which Betty did, one afternoon, and we got them the next day. But thank you so much, guys, for.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome, and I want to echo those comments as well to Scott and the survey crew. Never once did they question, it's going to be 10 degrees, do we have to go out there? They went out there. They like doing the work, trying to help different departments and organizations in town, but this is one of their favorites, I think. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is that it for the dredging project? Thank you very much. Moving on to mooring committee, Mr. Warren is not present, but he said he had no report for today, so moves on to the harbor master boat request. And you have one? Bye-bye, guys.
Thanks again.
Do you have any further to add to today?
I think we do. Mike, did you go over what I
think I've been a little
Sure.
behind the eight ball with having conversations with George about this, so I don't know that I have
just didn't want to step on anything that you...
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
don't think we have anything to address today. I know in the last meeting.
Well, I do have some findings that I've written out, and these are just preliminary findings, basically. If I could go over them.
Okay. So this is work in progress still, but this is some things that we've found out. Jeff, at one of our meetings, has stated that he's worked with the Connecticut Government Department of Transportation and DEP on harbor master responsibilities and procedures, and states that DEEP is okay with a harbor master using a personal boat. This doesn't preclude the harbor master from being supplied a boat, as in other towns and cities around Connecticut. Don Hyman has been told by the town government that they would prefer us to provide a boat and the harbor master not use his personal boat. As far as liability insurance, Brian is covered, the harbor master is covered by state immunity during his official duties. The boat would be covered by an insurance policy similar to one of the town vehicles. Without knowing the make and model, they can't really give us a concrete estimate, but I spoke to the purchasing guy and he thought it would be around $500 a year. So the personal boat is not an option, really. Your boat isn't really suitable for it.
Not really. No, it's 61 years old. I think it's a 1963.
There you go.
62, and it's 13-foot whaler, waterlogged whaler, let's just call it. Great for getting out to your mooring. That's about it.
Well, I mean, in terms of how the harbor master's duties in search and not search and rescue, but rescue and enforcement, are there shoulders bumping with the police and fire?
Well, search and rescue, I'll help them if I'm there and around. Something happened, last summer, a couple of occasions. I'm available. I'll go help them look for whatever they're looking for. You know, the swimmer that was in the water. I picked up 2 people myself. That's who they just happened to be there on the boat at the time. 2 swimmers that went out too far from shore and got in trouble Southport Beach. But it doesn't, you know, not really bumping shoulders in that way. I helped the fire department by giving them the equipment they didn't have. But for law enforcement, you know, I stop boats all the time, or mainly paddle boarders. I stop a lot of paddle boarders to educate them about life jackets. That's one of the biggest risks. People that have kayaks, you gotta have a life jacket. If boats go too fast in the channel, which you always get some visitors coming in, pushing a big weight with them. And just to, you know, to educate them, because the police boat's not around. It doesn't come. I've talked to them. They try to get there once a day on weekends in the summer, and weekdays, but they've got a lot going on, you know, where they have to be over there and dealing with no offense.
Do you need to be trained for certain things that, like that? You know, I mean...
No, we have a training once a year I go to with...
Oh, you do?
Yeah, they did it. Last year we learned all about something I would never do, DUI. You know, how to do DUI training on a boat stop. Because you obviously can't have people stand and do the nose touch or heel-to-toe walk on your boat, because that usually doesn't work quite well. But they told you how to recognize it and what to do and, you know, call for assistance. And the police were there as well. Harbor masters were there along with Marine police units from the whole state. We went out to New London for the day to do that training. And call for help when you need help and backup and assistance and work with those departments.
Have you had instances where you had to call in the police for support, or?
Nothing like that. I haven't, well, because people have stopped when I've, you know, come behind them. They just, you know, between the bullhorn and my little blue light, they do stop. Only once did someone take off on me. Some kids were at the end of the breakwater, a lot of kids on a boat. And I was merely going over to tell them that, you know, no swimming on the channel side. You guys could anchor at the end, but please make sure you go swimming on the other way. Well, they were up to something, because as soon as they saw me paddling, puttering over, they took off at such a fast speed I couldn't even get a number on the boat to tell the police to, why don't you go check on them? You know, they're headed your way. But other than that, no. It's most of it is very friendly type, talking to people and, you know, teaching them things. And checking the moorings a lot. I'm always checking the boats in the moorings. People that don't tie them right, or they wrap the lines around their propellers, which is going to cut them. Or they come up the wrong way into a cleat, because I'm in a scope, and I fix boats all the time, climbing on them and working on them.
So I know that some of the other side of the story on this, people are concerned that you've not had to have a harbor master's boat ever. Now we do, and then what's the change in scope of duties? I mean, you have an additional area of coverage in South Pine Creek.
And all the way to Ash Creek, actually.
And, yeah, right. But you also have, you know, I mean, Pequot makes themselves available to take you out to do mooring inspections or boat inspections for you too.
I suppose if I needed to, I could ask them all the time to let's go for a ride around the harbor, but then I go out a lot to do that.
Yeah.
Constantly check them every weekend, you know, once or twice. You know, the demand of them. I think in the past, no one has, I can't speak to my predecessors, nobody did everything that it kind of fits in the job description of what a harbor master does. That's why most of them have boats in Connecticut, because they know they have to go out and check moorings and check boats and, you know, just be out there as people, you know, it's like when he had the Pequot had the big races this summer, you know, but you won youth race with all those hundreds of kids. I made a point of just running a perimeter around it the entire time, keeping the spectator boats away and not getting in the way of the race boats, and telling the parents, you gotta back up, you gotta give them room, don't be making wakes, these kids are on the boat. And things like that the folks never did before to try to help.
I mean, I did do some, like, informal surveys of folks in other towns, and it seems like as far as how fire, police, and harbor master interact, it's kind of, you know, it's in a town, right? Some of them rely more on the harbor master, others are like, my jurisdiction and stay out of my way. And so, and I did talk to the police in Fairfield, and they were like, you know, it's helpful to have the harbor master, but, you know, we got it handled, was the general, you know, and which you would expect. So the police department say, we have our responsibilities on the water, and we're taking care of them, right? They're not going to say, hey, I'd love to have more help because I need it or something. If they need it, they're just going to go after their own budget for it. So, and then, you know, and then as far as the, you know, whether there was a vote or not, or what the harbor master's duties are, or how they, you know, how they complete them, it's, you know, it's town to town. Right? I mean, you know, I think more of the towns I talked to had a harbor master that provided a boat for the harbor master. The ones that didn't were like, you know, they were finding solutions. They, you know, they could engineer it as a more, you know, administrative position, so you don't have to be on the water as much, you know, that kind of thing. Or they had another solution in the town that they were able to do to leverage.
Well, I mean, that's how it's been for a long time. I mean, what you're saying is that really the job description requires more activity than has been undertaken by past.
He's also sharing that the job description goes beyond the Bay and Harbor Management Commission. There's additional territory, but that's not
Right.
Harbor Commission jurisdiction.
True. But the majority of it is in our jurisdiction. You're talking about the cost of the boat would be to be shared by other.
But, well, I heard that part of the justification is that there's territory that the harbor master is covering that's outside of the harbor. So that's part of the justification. So I can't speak to how much of the need for a boat is because of that additional territory.
Right. But in summary, the subcommittee for the boat has come to the conclusion that it would be smart and a good idea to move forward with this project.
I think we'd like more direction from the commission as far as, you know, do we decide that, or should we open it up to?
Well, the town, I mean, the town's interested in how it's going to be paid for.
No, I mean, you know, if, are you looking for just a recommendation from us?
Yeah.
Jeff has something.
I wanted to comment, if you don't mind, because it's very interesting, because 20 or 25 years ago, this was a topic that was often discussed with other harbor management commissions. And there were a number of group discussions involving someone from the Assistant Attorney General, who's been assigned to the Bureau of Aviation and Ports, who talked with us about harbor master responsibilities and liabilities and insurance and all sorts of things. One thing I will mention, when George talked about the liability insurance, what we learned back then was that, yes, the harbor master is indemnified, I forget Brian would know the right word, for his or her decisions. But at the time it was recommended that, you know, if the harbor master is using his or her own boat or a town boat, there needs to be additional insurance on that boat, because the harbor master's indemnification might not cover, you know, an accident on the water. And we used the example of when he was driving his own car to court. You know, he still needs insurance on the car, even though he's indemnified as a state official. And then there was a lot of discussion about the harbor master's authority to enforce the boating statutes, the difference between civil violations and criminal violations. And there was an attorney general's opinion that the harbor master should not be enforcing certain boating laws and regulations unless it's a certified law enforcement officer. And then that got into a whole bunch of different discussions as well, including the use of the blue light. But I just bring this up because these were matters that were discussed really a lot. And there was, I think I sent to you the introduction or the cover to a seminar that was held on this a number of years ago. But I don't, other than just remarking that this is something we discussed much at length years ago. And also, as Brian mentioned, and I talked with someone from the state recently, there's no issue as to whether the harbor master, they don't care if the harbor master uses his or her own boat. That's not an issue with the state.
I confirm the same. I got some.
It also said that there's a potential source of funds that we might, if we were interested in purchasing a boat, there are potential sources of state funds that we might want to at least talk about.
Right, I have no clue how to tap into that.
One of the sources is what they call the Supplemental Environmental Project or Fund, And that's monies that are obtained through fines of violators of state environmental laws. And it is a big pot of money. And interestingly, so the fellow I talked with said that you know, you could ask about it. Maybe we're not going to give you any money, but you could at least ask about the state funds. And then if there are state funds, are there obligations that come with it? So I don't have anything to help solve this. I'm just talking about.
So I think we're at the point where we discuss it through several meetings. Just 1 second, if I may. And we need to bring it to a close. I think I'm not going to say, I don't think we should vote on it right now. I think there's a bit more information we need to have. But what information is probably what we need to ask the question today. And get that information for the next one. I don't think you can identify a boat specifically. These are ballpark prices, 70 grand.
Yeah, I asked for a couple, I didn't want to just wing out numbers, so I asked for some quotes of boats. And I have 3 different quotes. 70,000 is one from Maritime Ship for, I think it's an 18-footer, 17 or 18-footer.
Yeah, you gave those to us.
The other two I got, but you said the other two, which were not less than ideal and then quite a bit more expensive on top of it. If you've got whatever.
Doug, you were going to make some comments?
Yeah.
I was going to make a comment, but I'll wait until the harbor master's finished.
I'm sorry, thank you. Yeah.
Well, so I know we've discussed it quite a bit, but, you know, one of the interesting observations that I would make is we are in a good position right now that we have a harbor master that seems to be more proactive on the water than previous ones have been. And so we're trying to address the situation largely as a result of that. But this is a position that predates the harbor master and will also go on, you know, beyond. So I think one of the things that we may want to consider is taking a very close look at the job description and the responsibilities of the harbor master to make sure that if the commission feels the harbor master should have a boat, then those responsibilities are clear in why. Or if the discussion is that maybe a boat isn't warranted for previous things, then also the description should be commensurate with that. When I read the description on the town website, it doesn't lead me to believe that a boat would be necessary, but I'm not saying that's the right job description. I'm just saying that's what's posted today. And so I think in order to have a discussion about whether the position needs a boat or not too, would be, you know, worth having clarity on the description and maybe even having input on what a future description is if it was going to change. Now, the job is a state-appointed job, really, right? It's not a town of Fairfield role. So I don't even know.
You make a recommendation, but the government.
We would make a recommendation, but I don't think it would be the Harbor Management Commission's within our authority to revise.
Define the role.
Some of your powers come under the town ordinances, the other harbor master powers come under the state statutes.
Yeah.
So it's a combination.
But the duties come under the state statute.
Yeah, the statutes say, they talk about the blue light specifically as a good example, and they talk about what laws harbor masters enforce and what they can't enforce. One of the things you can't is manslaughter with a vessel. You need to have a police officer to do that. Other things you can't, there's a whole list of things you can give tickets, unsafe operations, speeding, things like that come under the statutes. And we have our local ordinances too, swimming in the channel, things like that. You can't. So there's a kind of a dual body of where it comes from.
So it sounds like that, you know, what Doug's one point, maybe one follow-up point is to, I mean, I think what we're going to see, and we've already looked at this to some extent, is that the duties that the state defines are pretty broad, and then each town takes it and says, here's how I'm going to do it. And so, you know, it's more of an exercise, it's more an exercise in defining it. It's more an exercise in defining it than it is an exercise in saying what is it and how does, and is a boat necessary or not?
Yeah.
Because if you define it this way, certainly a boat's necessary. If you define it that way, it's not. And that's basically how the towns have taken it upon themselves.
Yeah.
So it comes down, to me, it comes down to more like two things really. It's less about the upfront cost. It's like everything in life, you know, it's about the ongoing cost, right? There's a cost, you know, cost benefit to taking care of a boat, having a boat every year, and, you know, potentially in perpetuity for the town. And then it's also the imposition on the harbor master. Like, you know, harbor master sees his duties as a certain role, and he's, right now, you know, we're putting him in the position, so to speak, that he has to use his personal boat to do that. And
well, which is the basis of my comments. I think looking beyond cost, and so cost is certainly a consideration, but shouldn't be the driver. It would be an understanding of the role that we are either putting the harbor master in or seeking to fill or manage. Right, I think that would be the most paramount piece of this, which is what is the role? The role as it's described on the town website is largely an administrative role. We have a very proactive harbor master right now, but the role right now is really about moorings, mooring management, cooperation with authorities, things like that. It takes a village, so I could see why another safety boat at a Pequot regatta would be beneficial. However, that's really Pequot's responsibility, right? Unless some emergency happened, they called in first responders or something else, but a private club holding a regatta isn't necessarily, harbor master would be aware, as I think other authorities would be or something else. So I think we're walking a very fine line, and so money is a part of it, but the bigger part of it is, what is the role of the harbor master? Historically, it's been an administrative role with limited on-water support, and then also cooperation with the other entities around town. We're looking at going beyond that now to have a role that's much more on-water effective, and that's got a different set of, criteria with it.
Another aspect of this, although the harbor master is a state official, but as a state official, the harbor master is required to conduct, again, his or her duties consistent with the harbor management plan. So that provides a level of direction to the harbor master. And so we should consider this as well in updating the plan. But looking in chapter 6 now, there's responsibilities of the harbor master. Most of them have to do with moorings, but there's also the responsibility that the harbor master should enforce boating laws and regulations to the extent permissible or practical. So there does envision that the harbor master would have that authority to the extent that it's authorized. The harbor management plan provides direction.
So, I would just say that I think, excuse me, whoever's walking around, would you mind putting your phone on mute? You're getting a lot of background noise. It seems to me that we've gone around Robin's barn a little bit here, and we're back to this again. The initial concern is that are we dealing with scope creep of the job description? That is, we did one thing, now we're doing a lot more. Is that a lot more necessary? And I think you could justify it in a lot of different ways through the harbor management plan and through, the job description as you see it. And I think, we've done a lot of the work to find out what the liabilities, how it will be paid for, and the town agrees with the payment method, the use of a personal boat or a new boat, or a town-owned boat. We're at the point now where, I think between now and the next meeting, we should be deliberating ourselves as to whether, this job expansion is something that we want to support with a vote, and we vote on that, and then we then construct the path towards getting the new boat, whether it's $70,000 for a maritime skiff or it's a used boat, and I don't know if Pequot's ever going to have any, cycled out whalers or ribs that might become available. I know you don't now, and that you need it for next season anyway. And then the logistics around where it's kept in the winter, where it's maintained, all that. So why don't we do that? And if you put some more information, more depth around the job description as to what it is that we should be doing now that we're not doing or haven't been doing, and then let's let the commission hear that for the next meeting and vote. Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, and you guys have some already that I gave you some breakdown. I can elaborate if we need to. The description and the statutes and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
there's the town website, there's a harbor management plan, and there's the state that defines the three spots where the harbor master's duties are outlined in some way, shape, or form.
All right, very good. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Now it's an update on the POCD update. Sorry.
Would the role of the harbor master be in any way, part of or a priority within updating the harbor management plan, or would you see that as separate and distinct?
Well, I think we would do that, because there's a section now in the plan concerning recommendations for responsibilities of the harbor master, and you include the mooring committee in that, too. So I think every plan that I'm aware of has guidance for the harbor master's duties. So I think we should consider that when we're updating the plan.
Definitely, yeah.
Because that provides the local direction to a state official.
Yeah.
The harbor master is also an ex officio member of the commission, without vote, and responsible for conducting the duties consistent with the harbor management plan.
All right, moving on to the POCD.
I don't have anything new to report. I've been communicating with members of the Town Plan and Zoning Commission, who said that most recently, I guess from last week, they have not yet gotten to the point of reviewing the environmental aspects of the POCD. And they also confirmed that pursuant to Section 8-23 of the General Statutes, which concerns preparation and adoption and amendment of a POCD, there's a 65-day notice period once they get to the point of having the draft for adoption. And that's for the Board of Selectmen and for some other reviews. So the last communication I received from two members of the TP&Z was that it might not be until March that they get to the environmental section or have that ready to go, and then there's a 65-day. So in other words, there's nothing for us.
Good. So we've given them the information, they'll review it and get back to us.
Yes. At some point, they will have to have a draft for adoption, and that will require a formal notice and approval, or not notice process to the selectmen, and for the Harbor Commission's notice period is 35 days.
Okay.
So there's nothing right now, just be alert to follow what they're doing.
Excellent, thank you. Budget process for 2025.
Nothing new except the fact that you went and you presented our budget.
We're standing by for adoption. Okay. Status of the town, the refund of the ships grant.
Well, I hope to have everything finished today, and I don't, in part because of the urgency of the testimony tomorrow. But we have our draft status report of the whole process that we followed, going back to when we applied for the grant to do the work, the dredging work that we were talking about today. And then ending, and Bill Hurley and I have been coordinating on this, with the Bond Commission meeting on June 7th of 2024, where they allocated $173,778 to the town of Fairfield for this project. And the town committed to $162,122 in addition to that. So that, and then after that, we're in the process now of applying for the additional approval to build the North Pier, which this amount of money allocated by the Bond Commission was to cover. So I'm detailing all of that as the Port Authority wished, and I'm sorry I don't have it finished today.
That's fine. I called the Port of Authority, as you know. I spoke to Fiona, was there?
Fayola Haynes.
Fayola Haynes, to just to say that the Harbor Management Commission and the town is working hard to get the details together so that they don't lose faith in us for future grants.
And I talked with her too, after you did. And the Port Authority indicated that the director, Fayola, would like to visit Southport. They were very much interested in the dredging project. So they said after this holiday that took place yesterday, they would be communicating with us and try to schedule a time for them to come down, where we could talk about the that they contributed to.
All right, it's underway.
Yes.
Just so you know, the grant coordinator has left. He's no longer left his position. Yes.
He was only here for a short time.
That's correct. But before he left, he sent me a letter, and he also, I believe, he sent it to the first selectman's office. He has drafted a letter in preparation of the next step.
Got it.
We do have that. In fact, I'm going to forward that to you so you know.
Thank you.
Have that in your file.
Great. And now the condition of the Tide Mill Dam and tide gates.
That's, Brian has left. I think this is a matter that the Harbor Commission should be involved with. The tide gates at the dam, the tide mill, were replaced.
I'm on the phone if you need me. So, thank you.
And the dam was repaired as part of the Exide remediation project. And so I talked about this with Deep, and mentioned that there is concern that the tide gates are not in proper repair. And when I looked the other day, and I received some photographs from an upstream resident, the easternmost tide gate does not seem to be there anymore. Now, in the applicant, this work was done in 2013, 2014 through a deep certificate of permission, a COP. And the applicant was the Exide Corporation, even though the applicant is not the owner of the facility. The owner was listed as the name has to do with the Tide Mill Associates. I sent the application and the subsequent issuance of the approval to Brian and also to the conservation director. And interestingly, in the approval, there is a condition that the certificate holder, which would be Exide, is responsible for maintaining all of the authorized work in good repair and good condition. But what does that mean if Exide is long gone? So, interestingly, and I don't know if Brian sent this or a property owner sent this, I had communicated with the DEP dam inspection or whatever the office in DEP that has to do with dam work. And the response was that all dams have to be inspected according to a schedule. And the owner was notified that they must have an inspection by the end of this year. And I had suggested to Deep, well, that's fine, but what about in the instance where there's either a violation or an immediate problem that has to be addressed, rather than just wait till the inspection takes place? And then the Deep person said, has anybody talked with the owner of the dam? Almost as if that indicates that does the owner have responsibility now because Exide isn't allowed. So that's a roundabout way of saying I don't know. I've sent this to the conservation director and have not had yet an opportunity to talk with him about how they might proceed. But I think, and I mentioned to the property owner who expressed concern that the Harbor Commission would discuss this and could make a recommendation, perhaps to conservation to address this, or how. I don't know what the next steps are. I've got the application, I've got the approval. There seems to be, the structure seems not to be in accordance with what was approved. What's the remedy now? And I think that the conservation department might be the town entity to approach the property owner.
So have you spoken to conservation?
I left a message, I sent the material. Tim was not in the office when I went down before the meeting this afternoon. Mr. Bishop.
Right. So we'll just have to table this until the next meeting when we find out what next steps might be.
I'll continue to discuss it with Tim and see what his interest is or what his plan is to. But it seems like the property owner should be contacted if there's a.
Yeah. It's not a runaway train. It's an imminent breach. So right.
No, all I could see was that one of the tide gates is missing, and the permit or the approval was for three tide gates to be maintained in good condition. The impact that may have on upstream conditions in the river, I'm not qualified to know that.
So then we're tabling it to the next meeting for a report from.
To communicate with Tim.
Okay, good.
See what he recommends.
Great. So the last item under old business is the Harbor Management Act, the Connecticut Harbor Management Act, which, if I may just say a couple things about it, it's a very important piece of legislation which has been that Jeff has been working on behalf of several harbor management commissions in the state of Connecticut. And it's at the core, DEEP is saying that when projects come before them, they do not necessarily need to seek or require information from the Harbor Management Commission that is relevant to that project. Whereas the harbor management plans in all of these towns along here have been approved by DEEP stipulate that the harbor management plan, the harbor management commissions do comment and advise on those. So it's to make sure that the authorization of the commission isn't eroded in any way. That's really the basis of this new House Bill 6419, I think.
6914, Chris.
6914. And there's a public hearing tomorrow for which Jeff will be appearing and communicate, as well as Kim, perhaps.
I don't believe Kim is going to be able to attend now because of having the flu. But it's interesting, and we talked about this on and on for several years. Since a court case that emanated in Greenwich, without going into all the details, it had to do with a relatively small dock, but the implications are wide-reaching or far-reaching. But the judge ruled that there is no legal authority for the any harbor management commission to review applications for state permits or state approvals. There's no legal authority. But that's part of every harbor management plan that DEEP itself has approved, including the Southport Harbor Management Plan, where one of the responsibilities is to conduct a harbor management consistency review process, and that includes the review of applications to the State Department of Environmental Protection. So that's in the approved and adopted harbor management plan that DEEP approved. And it was that authority that we applied to intervene, or not in a legal way, into the Exide project. When the Exide attorney said, you don't need any town approvals, we said, wait a minute, it affects the harbor, you have to come before the Harbor Commission. And that led to a successful remediation project. So that's one thing that would be corrected by this proposed legislation. Even though it's always been implied or interpreted that we have this authority to review applications for state approvals, the judge said there's no legal authority to do it. The second part of it is that the judge ruled that the DEEP does not have to listen to the Harbor Commission decisions or recommendations unless it's a recommendation that's specified ahead of time in the harbor management plan, which of course is an impossible thing to do. And of course the example is Exide again. And that is also contrary to what DEEP itself has approved more recently in harbor management plans, where it specifically is approved that it is a recommendation of the Harbor Management Commission, in addition to something set forth in the plan ahead of time, that DEEP must listen to, and if it does something different, they have to explain why. So those are what we're asking to be accomplished in this legislative change. 2 years ago, DEEP objected to it and misrepresented what we were asking for. DEEP objected to it and said that what the harbor commissions are asking for is veto authority over the state sovereignty over the public trust area, which is not the case. So this has come about very quickly in terms of knowing that there's a public hearing tomorrow. We learned about it last Thursday. Now, Kim is not going to be able to go. I hope I'll be able to go in person. If not, I'll certainly do it online. But Senator Wong and other members of Fairfield's delegation have been supportive of this. And Senator Wong said tomorrow he would delegate or defer some of his time to testify to the representatives of the Harbor Management Commission. So we'll have to, between now and noon time tomorrow, I'll have to figure out how to...
He's a co-sponsor of it.
Yes.
As is, and the other co-sponsor is the vice chair of the Environmental Committee of the state of Connecticut, so.
Yes, who's from.
One would think that they would,
Who's from Eastern Connecticut, and this current initiative resulted in large part this time by actions by the City of New London, which is preparing a harbor management plan, and wants to be treated the same way as Greenwich and other towns where DEEP agreed that it's a recommendation of the commission that has to be listened to. So there's a lot to figure out between now and noontime tomorrow.
so there's that logistics, and for all intents and purposes, what this commission needs to consider is that we support that effort, that we either through a letter of support at the appropriate time, which I could ask you to draft for us, and I'll sign on our behalf.
Which other commissions are doing.
Right.
And I know the Stanford delegation, for example, the entire delegation signed on to the bill when it was first introduced as a proposed or a concept bill. And they support, now that it's a raised bill, which we just learned last week.
I thought we had already agreed to support this with a letter.
We did. We did, but this has bubbled up a lot faster. We said, yeah. We said we would prepare that letter at the appropriate time. The appropriate time seems to be happening a lot faster than we thought. They advised of a public hearing for tomorrow, last Thursday.
Now, we also I wasn't able to, before the meeting started today, to learn about the deadline for written comments on this. I'm assuming that there'll be a little bit more time after tomorrow to submit them. I'll find out after the meeting. But this affects every harbor commission, and also what we do in the harbor management plan. Does this mean that the section of our plan that talks about the review of applications for state permits has to be removed? It doesn't have validity anymore, or what does that mean?
All right, so
Are all 26 or 27 commissions participating in this?
Well, now we're trying to get the notice out to everybody. In the last week, we've had discussions with the Greenwich, Stanford, Norwalk, Fairfield, Stratford, New London, Norwich, and Milford today. Not apparently, I talked with a fellow from Milford who's quite interested. And I think one of Milford's legislators also was a co-sponsor of the first concept bill. So just trying to get through to everybody as quickly as we can, and Old Saybrook too. And interestingly, not this past Saturday, the Saturday before, there was the annual gathering of shellfish commissions in New Haven. And this is sponsored by Connecticut Sea Grant, and the Bureau of Aquaculture participates. I went with the shellfish people from Stanford and Norwalk, but it's an opportunity to discuss matters of interest, and it's a big group. It's quite an interesting meeting. But they allowed me to speak about this issue and make the point that this affects management of shellfish resources, because the harbor management plans all talk about protecting and preserving shellfish resources, and has more weight supposedly than what the Shellfish Commission, could do. So this affects shellfish management as well as it's part of harbor management, really.
all right, well, we'll wait to hear what you learned from the public hearing tomorrow, and then we'll, devise and create our letter of support in whatever form that needs to be at that time. Thank you very much. Is there any new business for the commission today? And there's no applications. Do I hear any public comment?
Yes, sir. I'd like to make comments, if I would. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to introduce Captain Travis Herman, who is the Marine and Facilities Director for the Pequot Yacht Club, and he will be assuming my role as I retire, effective immediately. Thank you all. I enjoyed 21 years with you guys. It's been great working on this team, and the club is going forward. Looks forward to working with the team and the flag officers of the yacht club. I'm safe in saying support Travis in his role, and we're still there for you guys, even more probably now. So thank you guys for the great 21 years.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
And thank you to everybody at the club that have to be recognized separately, contributing to the dredging project as well. Providing, say, equipment with the anchors, providing support, meeting rooms, advice and guidance throughout this whole project. And it was, I think we talked about it with the Corps of Engineers at the Corps of Engineers meeting. It's a very unique situation where the club has a role in assisting with the management of the harbor in the public interest. And that goes back to the resolution of the issues many years ago. It's been a model, gosh, without, well, anyway.
Key. And I would say, perhaps the other commissioners agree that we should make note in our minutes that we express our appreciation for Jeff and all his efforts through the years of 21 years, sitting with us in this commission and supporting the management, the commission's activities every step of the way.
Thank you. Yes, it's
Yeah.
really,
Very much.
And also look forward to working with Travis.
Oh, and Travis too, yeah.
Travis already has a great relationship with Brian, has been doing it for a lot of years
Yeah,
here, so
yeah.
there's stuff that, the only thing new is coming here. He'll do a great job, assuming the chair.
Should be seamless. Yeah, I think so. Any other further public comment? Hearing none?
I had one, prolong it, but one thing that we haven't, the commission hasn't really discussed in depth, but I know is the change that's taking place in the harbor and the surrounding areas and apropos of the discussions with the harbor master. He has, whether he likes it or not, and I'm sure he likes it because he's a smart guy and fully engaged, but he's now in play. This harbor is different than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. On a weekend, it's loaded with boards and sailboards and God only knows what else, dogs, you name it. And the harbor master's played an important role of being actually independent of all the different entities that try to use the harbor or do use the harbor. And so I think his role is actually greater because of the need to kind of coordinate and make sure that the asset of Southport Harbor is protected and that people understand who has what jurisdiction. I think you'd be surprised how important, as you go forward, how important the harbor, if the harbor master is willing to take this role on, it's going to be as far as the safety and use and sanity of that harbor. I mean, on the weekend, it's really, he makes reference to talking to people and calming them down and telling them where they should be and where they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It's a unique experiment. It's been going on for 30 years, Jeff. I don't know how long we've been at this, but so I think you might want to look at the soft side of this, which is how people use the harbor, who's going to enforce it, who's going to settle disputes and misunderstandings, what property you can go on, what property you can't go on. Because those situations are going to come up now much more often than they ever have, just because of use, just because of demand.
And it's up, yeah. I think you're right.
So I encourage it. When I talked to Brian, I said you should really, if the vote would help, we should really get behind you and do it. And I think it's essential for the future. He's got to have access. The enforcement is all about that.
Yeah.
So anyway. I think it should be considered.
Thank you, Jim. Any further comment? Public comment? Hearing none, we stand adjourned for the evening at 5:52.